with John Moore and to
Like that?
yeah. And then go to the bottom again. You can X out of that one, Jeff. And other participants, I think you're gonna have Paul in there. You gotta move them over.
Hi, everybody.
Hi, girlfriend.
Just click
Thank
on the, just click
you.
on the people. Yeah. Go up to attendees.
Sorry, I'm late.
We haven't
Yeah,
even
go to
started yet.
more.
You're good.
And panelists, yep, right top. There you go. That'll bring them in.
There, Mr. Haggerty?
Not yet, he'll pop up on the screen.
Okay.
There he is.
Okay. Would you like to start now, Mr. Malachi?
Yes, so we'll convene the January 11, 2022 People Operations Committee agenda, and I turn it over to Mr. Moore.
Okay, we have in our instructional and non-instructional, we have ongoing postings that have been there for the duration of the fall.
Seems like they're shrinking a bit.
They are, and we do have a speech pathologist that we'll be bringing to the next board meeting that we've hired. It's slow. It definitely is, but we also are still actively trying to fill the E&L position at Stokes that we had earlier created.
So the speech pathologist that you're bringing in is going to fill in the position that's listed here, or is that another open position?
It's position. The speech teacher will be on this Thursday. So none of the speech teacher.
No,
Oh,
OT.
I lied to you. So no,
I took the OT off because we filled
sorry.
Too efficient.
it.
So we're still looking then. for a
Yes,
speech
still looking.
pathologist. Okay.
The mainstay of tonight's agenda are the two other items. We have discussion on board clerk and discussion on a request for Stroud musical. I just wanted to flip the order of those two items. Stroud is looking to have a musical this spring. After some of the dialogue in the previous board meetings, certainly understand that we have to have all of our advisors in place in June to follow our policy. However, they did come forward last month and they started the process of requesting through Tracy to have advisors so they could have a high quality musical production similar to what they do at RFA. So there were some individuals that came forward seeking this. I wanted to come to this group and see if we solicited advisors for a musical at Stroud. Is that something we could approve at this point, or do we want to push that off until next year?
I mean, it makes sense for kids.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think it was a blatant violation of policy. And on our end, I don't think that we have done all we should be doing in May to say, hey, let's make sure the posting's out, and Karen's calendar is going to cover that for next year.
So we can proceed with seeking out those advisors and.
Yeah,
then-
absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I think it just by default
think
always used to
certainly
be the
the
music
kids-
department, right? And like,
I mean, typically it's the same ones that do it year in and year out, right?
Correct.
I mean, you know, when I was at Staley, it was always.
well, they had some staffing changes. The music teacher that used to do it
Oh,
Is it now
left
both
the
of-
district. Yeah.
Okay, all right, but
Well, probably two
it's not
new
just one
people.
guy, right? It's usually a team of people that
Yeah.
are doing this
It's-
together,
yeah.
so. all right.
Never just one, not even at the high school. So,
So, yeah,
okay, thank you.
very good.
I'll talk with Mr. O'Rourke about that.
Okay.
So the second item we have on is the board clerk, the district clerk position. I had sent out in a draft form to everyone, and I'm sorry about the length of that document, about 5 pages. Because what I've tried to do was to capture the different points that came up in conversation at this table as they pertain to what you're looking for. We've also been meeting with the business office to see what their people have been doing previously as we try to develop this position to meet the needs of the board. Now, Peter, this was a 0.4 we landed on, or 0.6?
well, we've been round and round. It's kind of tied to a bigger situation that we have that we're trying to solve with the facilities department and the business office. In the facilities department, you know that their secretary resigned a few weeks ago. They're kind of without somebody up there, and we've heard Alex say that they're looking for an accounts payable type of background to kind of help with some of the purchasing that happens up in facilities. Rob has requested that we consider moving Martha, who is a confidential secretary here in the business office. She used to be an accounts payable, so he's requested that we move her to the facilities department where she can cover clerical responsibilities, accounts payable, purchasing for our facilities department that Alex mentioned, and answer the phone for transportation, helps us draw aid on part of her salary. And instead of, essentially, it's a swap, move the old position over here, move her over to facilities. And talking about some of the district clerk things, the conversation came up that we have a current confidential secretary doing payroll that would be interested in being more of a clerical role, which would replace Martha up here. So you kind of got a three-part shift happening. You'd have our current business office secretary, who's Martha, go to transportation facilities. You'd have payroll move into that secretarial position, who does a lot of the district clerk responsibilities already. And then you'd be looking for a payroll person while our payroll individual is still on staff to train that individual. So in the end, you need to reduce the senior account clerk and create a principal account clerk. That's what the business office is looking to do. If we were to do some of that, the conversation then becomes, you've got the duties in business office that are currently the clerk would do. You've got the duties that Patty does that the clerk would do. Most people around the building seem to think that those things are working fine and shouldn't be touched. Which really begs the question, what would the district clerk do if it's not one of those two people? You could have one of them be the district clerk by title, one be the deputy clerk by title. Everything except for committee meetings are really covered under that scenario. The difference is you've got two people, the clerk and the deputy clerk, you probably have to offer some kind of a stipend. I think Patty gets it. I think she might get a small stipend for district clerk. I can't, or deputy clerk, no?
No.
So you'd be looking at a small stipend for both individuals versus a part-time position, if you wanted to leave it that way.
I think the issue with that is, I mean, we've had a couple of examples just in the last few weeks of things not happening that need to. Like just a simple, the confusion of what time was the meeting, or meetings getting advertised, or getting documentation sent to us. So there's things that as the board is busier that we need, that trying to pull them away from their main role, that's where in a district this size, I feel like it's a challenge. I feel like the reason we were so desirous of a specific person was not just to consolidate all the things, like you said, Shelley does a little and the business office does a little and Patty does a little, but also that they aren't conflicted between the responsibilities that need to be fulfilled to complete board work and reporting to whoever their assigned person is. So that's where it's kind of become.
I'm all about just people, if they need, Patty needs help, if they need help, give them help. That's something that they're.
Well, that's not the issue. Right now, the work that they're doing, that's the argument is that the aside from the committee meetings, we've got two people doing the work that a district clerk would normally do. And it's functioning fine and they're not having an issue. The issue is if you're going to add to what needs to be done, then you're going to have a problem. Or if you take those responsibilities away from those people, what does it do to the current jobs that they have in terms of time management and load management? They're both going to have a significant hole in their yearly responsibilities, if you follow kind of the big picture. So it boils down to what is it that the board is expecting from the district clerk? We really got to have a clear picture on that before we know what type of position it should be. which is kind of where the conversation's been for a little
I
while.
mean, to me, it seems like, you know, the committee, attending the committee meetings and the board meetings is where we're at, where we're at more than anything else. And then obviously accepting maybe like service on some new process and whatnot. Beyond that, it seems like you're saying that these other responsibilities are being already completed by people that are working for the district.
Correct. The biggest responsibility for the district clerk is the annual election and legal notices. That's what most district clerks do. That's it. And that's why it's a small stipended position for people. But I think when we start looking at, to Tanya's point about trying to, how do you do some of that stuff that is normally done for the district clerk, and are there other things that we can weave in to make it a fruitful position? Some of those other conversations came up. Is it beneficial to have the same person attending everything to be able to share information, consistent note taking,
Well, I
all
think,
those different
I think
things?
for those committees that don't already have that service, then I think it, you know, it probably would make sense to have the same person going to all the meetings. But I mean, we have somebody like Shelley who's done such a wonderful job here, and I think is integral to this meeting. I don't know that she's just here taking notes. I think she's here providing information for us that is helping us to make decisions. So,
But I think that's unique to this committee. Do you know what I mean? We don't
Well,
have that
but
same thing, like, we don't have that same contribution in finance or policy
and that's why I'm saying.
or facilities, right?
If we either hire a new person or we pick one of the two to be the one that's coming to the meetings, I think that person should attend all the meetings, all
Right.
the other ones that
Right,
where we
because-
don't already
right.
have a dedicated person.
You're not
If
gonna
I
get
had
that
notes like
contribution.
Shelley's for all the other committees, I would feel like I didn't have to get to every committee.
Well, and I think the difference is in our department is there's two people. And when I first came here, there was three. Shelley did all the folks that were certified. KJ did all the folks that were civil service. And then Shelley did civil service as well. But those two had their niches, and we're a small department. There's two of us. We did a teacher training, sub-teacher training today, and we're 4 feet apart. So we don't even meet the 6 foot standard, do we, Sean?
No.
We are always together. So
Well, Peter, why do you say that wouldn't work?
Because the small department, Martha, there's no way Martha's gonna have any of the business background that she would need to contribute to finance in a meaningful way. And like in educational programs, Sherry Martin's not gonna have the integral knowledge of what Dana, Jen, and Chris are doing on a daily basis with staff to really be able to lend to the conversation if you talk about that or anything like
Well,
that. The roles are different.
yeah, no, but I'm saying that
Departments.
in attending those committees, I wouldn't expect them to be able to contribute necessarily to the conversation, but I think what Tanya is looking for, and correct me if I'm wrong, is somebody to make sure that they're there taking down what's happening correctly and then turning around and distributing that to the other board members.
Along with anything that we ask for, right? Because sometimes that's it too. Sometimes we're in a meeting and we're like, can you get us that job description? Can you get us a breakdown of this? Can you, policy in particular? Okay, can you go amend all of that and get a first draft to everybody? Can you go find us a sample somewhere? There's follow-up that it's hard. Especially now, the climate now has been, a different demand on everybody, but I just feel like the busier we are, it's almost like the board needs a secretary. It's kind of that, do you know what I mean? For all there's so many moving parts now with the committees and, all the things you have here, this is a ton. I don't know that you're gonna get anybody to, they'd run away
No.
crying if they saw this list.
Did you see the end? Did you see the last part?
Yeah.
And all other duties, is that what? it-
No, it's
not a
it's a
complete
complete list.
well, there's a number of pieces
CSD.
in here as well that are functions of
That's what a
specific
full-time clerk
individuals.
would.
All right, so I mean, I guess what I'm hearing, Peter, from you is that you think that we have people that are already performing the duties, but more 90% of the duties. But they're not capable of performing that last 10%. But if we're gonna hire a clerk, we should get a clerk that's gonna do all of the duties, but then that would leave a hole for the other two people. So I mean, what do you recommend in terms of trying
It
to?
depends on what isn't happening right now that folks want to see happen. would determine what that would have to be. So if
I
you go
think-
through this list,
Yeah.
the first one, this is Dave Drydle. The second one, this is Patty. The third one is Martha. Regular meetings, special meetings, that's Patty. Superintendent hearings, that's Patty. Communication, that's pretty much everybody. Subpoenas, that would be the board clerk, which would be Karen, or Patty as the deputy clerk would be the one that would be getting that information. If you got district people were being subpoenaed, it would be Dave Drydle doing that. Records requests is Dave Drydle. Legal is Dave Drydle. Records is Dave Drydle. FOIL is Dave Drydle. Bids and purchases, Dave Drydle. Policy manual, administrative manual, that's a combination of Tanya, Patty, and myself. Board docs, right now, it's initial conversations with board docs, looks like that's Patty. So you can see how that stuff is broken down. It's really all over the place.
Well, so I think at least Tanya helped to identify what she's looking for anyway, which is attendance to meetings, taking notes and fulfilling document requests, which I don't know that that's a job that we should be posting. I think that sounds like something that we could possibly add on to someone's responsibilities. I mean, that's just my opinion. You're the one that has to kind of live in this a little bit. What do you think? Do you think it's worth the cost of bringing in a person just to attend meetings and take notes?
Well, but when we had the meeting with the wish list meeting, Jeff was asking for an assistant person, and my note that I wrote that night was, how is this impacted if we add a district clerk? Like, would it take things off, Shelley, that, to help that department? And then there's a note that Dave had also asked for some support. So
I think the answer to your first question was Peter provided to us earlier, which is that not only would one person's schedule be impacted, two people's schedule would be.
but I feel like they're
impacted.
people who are overloaded right now, not people who are like walking around going, God, I wish I had something to do. I don't think there's anybody in the district walking around doing that at this point, like.
Well, I don't know. I mean, he did report that they thought that things were going well in the current system in terms of responsibilities. Did I hear you incorrectly on that?
With regard to what, the only person that needs stuff removed from their plate right now is Dave. And that's simply because you got FOIL requests coming in at an extraordinarily ridiculous rate. You've got records requests coming in at an extraordinarily ridiculous rate, which are two things that he does that that the business official wouldn't normally be doing. Normally that would be your district clerk.
So do you
So
think-
Dave was looking for a 0.6 person. No, he has a 0.6 person, sorry,
Right. The
purchasing.
purchasing, yes,
And
Yeah.
assistant
the deputy treasurer purchasing agent.
So I guess the question still remains. So if there are certain things that Dave would be happy to see removed from his list of obligations currently, is that enough of a list
I have this in my
when you
email.
combine it with attending meetings and dealing with board document requests to justify a position, whether it be part-time or full-time? And if the answer to that question is yes, then I think that we move forward. But if not, if it's a situation where we can,
This is the thing. If you create a position called district clerk, that person has to do all of the annual budget vote and legal notice proceedings. By law, they have to do that. So you're immediately removing a good portion of the job that Martha would do up in the business office right now and giving that to the district clerk. Whether or not you have the district clerk also take on some of these other things that are spattered throughout here, you would either be in a situation where you go full-time and this is what they have to do. This is what they would be doing as a district clerk. And you're good. Or you're creating a situation where you have a district clerk that's going to do a part of the responsibilities and other people throughout the organization are still going to do a part of the responsibility. So for instance, if you have the district clerk if they're gonna do all of the annual budget vote election and legal notice items that Martha currently does, that would free up maybe Martha to do FOIL requests, records requests, things that Dave is currently doing that somebody in a more of a clerical role could do. That, and then maybe nothing changes with Patty's role and she continues to do what she's doing. There's a way to make that work as a, what I would say, a part-time position if you wanted to. It still does not address the need of somebody being consistent at all the meetings, if that's what the board desires. Depending on time frame, right? I mean, clearly a week like last week, there wasn't a lot going on. A week like this week,
There's a lot.
they're working more than a full-time schedule for this week. So it's a matter of that balance.
Well, we can make it a flex.
Yeah, I think that, I know the board's totally willing to do that, and we've had that conversation. It's just a matter of some weeks and some months are gonna be greater than others.
I prefer that model, honestly.
And that could also lead into the conversation with the deputy treasurer slash. If they're looking for a 0.6.
Well, right now, isn't that position the deputy treasurer purchasing, what's the split on that one?
Right, but what he talked about was the making the 0.6 purchasing and is adding them at the 0.4 for facilities. So that he talked about getting rid of the BOCES aidable position and combining it into one person here, and they would be dedicated to purchasing. So that deputy treasurer piece would probably be lifted, right? Because purchasing would be 100% of the expectation.
Yeah, I don't know where he's going with that one yet.
Because what he was saying is that 0.6 person from BOCES, and then Alex had a need too. So we'd really model that role, if I understood him correctly. Again, that was a ton of information in one night.
Their solution to that role would be to move Martha from the business office to facilities, because she's got an accounts payable purchasing background, so they wouldn't need the part that Alex was asking for the other week.
So does
They
he
would
not
cover that
have,
base.
I'm sorry, I went by this on the disc, so like, you know, this is our org chart and it has no names and no supporting people, so this didn't help me, and I'm super visual. So I went to this and like, so. Where is? So this has Alex and then Shelby as his secretary. Does he still have that person?
Shelby
resigned.
She resigned last month. That's why they want to move Martha
That's a
over there.
question mark right there.
Can't keep up on these. You guys just keep this like right on your desktop and just edit it day by day, right? Sorry.
Scratch.
Hour by hour sometimes, right?
It
Scratch
feels
right
like
through
it.
it.
I have,
Scratch
I
it
have,
on the pen.
I have scratches on it myself, like, you know, so I get that. Okay, so we're okay, so which takes Martha from,
From the business office to facilities.
And I don't think that's a smart move. Martha just got that job. That
It
she's
would be
in
the
right now.
same, it'd be the same position and title, just in a different location with additional responsibilities.
And she's expressed a desire to do it,
Oh,
or no?
And I think it was her idea, but that's my understanding.
she's Rob's person right now.
Correct. Dave does not have a secretary. Martha kind of serves as
is it?
kind of a catch-all.
Yeah.
So their request is move Martha to facilities because she has the ability to do the accounts payable and the purchasing. She's finding that she misses doing that type of work, and Alex is in need of that type of work.
So wait, she
Then
took that,
replace her here with a secretary for the business office.
which was Judy, who
No,
retired.
Judy
No.
was Rob's secretary.
Judy
But
was
that's
what
who
Martha
Martha is-
was.
Martha
Martha
is
is Judy now.
Lots of internal transferring.
Okay,
So Martha's Judy. Martha likes the purchasing portions of that, so that.
and wants to go be Shelby, who,
And if she's Shelby, then they can also do transit on that, because she'll be answering the phone for transportation too. Because that's the transportation.
Okay.
piece. So it's aidable through that route.
wait,
We
I
did
thought
that-
Rob was aided, if that she was Rob's and Rob was aided as, you gave,
She's currently right now, there's a portion of her work that is aidable here. The replacement here would also have a portion of work that would be aidable because they would still be in the business office handling transportation calls. Not quite as much, The difference is if she goes over the transportation building, obviously she's doing more transportation work than she would be here. So she would be more aidable over there than she would be here.
Loophole is the word of the day, right? Okay, just checking.
So I mean, why am I getting the sense that we're trying to complicate this more than we should?
Well, because you don't want to overstaff and you don't want to have more than you can support. But we've been having this conversation for several years for two reasons. One, before and almost all of our times, other than Paul and maybe yourself, Joe, like there was a need that all of the things that are in the law book as the list of things a district clerk needs to do need to go to a district clerk. They need to stop coming to a board member. And as we are busier and we are functioning, I think, more efficiently under this committee structure, there's more follow-up things that are not happening and the need for those concise minutes is not happening.
Sure.
So those are the two
No,
pieces
And-
to
and-
me.
And I get that, but it seems to me like we're always kind of circling back to a part-time position. Because a lot of the duties, other than the ones that are strictly reserved for a district clerk, are already being performed. So if that's the case, then I think we should think about just doing a part-time person that is going to be doing the legal notices and the voting piece. And from time to time is gonna have to attend meetings. And then maybe we put it in the contract that there's some sort of extra stipend for that. I don't know. Maybe that's how we work it out.
Flex or,
Flex or.
Yeah.
I don't know.
and what I was leading to is the possibilities, if we're looking at the deputy treasurer at 0.6, can the other 0.4 be that position, Peter? Of the deputy treasurer.
My gut
Then you have a
instinct
full-time
is
position.
that it's more than a 0.4, but
Okay, but if you do that, part of the conversation we had a while back was, is this the board selects a person, right? We interview and select a person, or is this a CSDA?
It's an exempt.
It's exempt.
Okay,
So you can interview, we have to create the position. And we have a spec to create the position. We just have to update the spec with some of the pieces on this. We'll send it to the civil service. We can create the position, but it's exempt.
and deputy treasurer is also, because the person holding that right now is,
Our deputy treasurer right now falls under senior account clerk.
that's why I'm confused.
So
You
then
see where
we
that-
can't measure
It's
it.
kind of going like,
Yeah.
right, that's
There we go. There we go.
that. And you and I had a conversation about the concern, although in finance today, now I'm confused, because is our deputy treasurer only a deputy treasurer in the absence of the treasurer, or is our deputy treasurer a supporting role? And are we not? And I asked this actually, I think when we hired the current person, are we paying enough for the expectation for that role? We don't currently pay a stipend for that, and it's an added responsibility.
My understanding from today, the deputy treasurer, the only thing they do on a consistent basis is cash receipts. Cash intake and cash receipts, which is not really a supporting role. It's really just a small function of the responsibility.
So I think that being said, we'd be looking at, I would say, a 0.6 to cover all these pieces and have a flex time to attend meetings and ascribe the posting of meetings and some of these portions to it. The policy manual. Well, I know. I know.
0.6 is benefits, 0.4 is.
Correct.
So would it be cheaper for us to go 0.4 and do a stipend or pay benefits?
My thought would be you start with a 0.6 because you might find someone that's a stay-at-home parent that's looking to get back in the workforce a little bit, that needs a flex schedule.
Mhm.
Benefits could be helpful. I mean,
Entertaining.
you could start as a 0.4 and see if you get anybody, and if you don't, then you go to a 0.6. I mean, you might find someone that doesn't need the benefits, that just wants to work a little bit, and will,
And then we just
Take a
pay it
buyout.
offset, don't we? Don't we pay
you do a buyout on the benefits. I mean, it's.
still more cost effective?
Benefits are gonna run you in the ballpark of 20% worth of the salary, so.
Yeah, which is what I thought maybe.
You know, you're
But
probably-
it does make it more attractive.
You're probably looking at probably 5 to 7 grand.
Okay, I guess I'm getting confused now. What, all the functions are being performed now. Everybody says it's going well. Nobody's overburdened from what I'm hearing.
Just Dave.
other than Dave. And we're gonna
I
hire
feel like
some-
Patty is too.
We're gonna hire somebody, it doesn't make sense.
No, we're gonna hire somebody that whose duties are that of a district clerk, which will then relieve Dave, who's the only one who's saying that he's overloaded.
He's not overloaded with district court stuff, is he?
He is.
Yeah.
He's overloaded with
Because
Foils, legal
Record
notices,
requests.
managing the vote,
records, record retention, foils.
and
Okay,
we have stuff
okay.
not getting done, like minutes from our finance meetings, minutes from our policy meetings and updates to policies, like Patty's trying to
Mhm.
tuck all that in right now. You know, the only committee we're getting consistent documentation and updates from is here, from Shelley. Rockstar, gold star for you today
Thanks.
and all the days. We appreciate you.
We've always, one of the pieces though, is that we always, even before the meetings like this, we always ran minutes. So since I came here, and I know that happened with Frank, that was just, that's what I walked into, so. it goes
But
up
you're
to
still
district.
looking for a person too, right?
I am, because
Okay.
between the two of us, there's still telephone calls, filing, meeting with staff on, and taking something as silly as a picture or checking paperwork. I mean, there's things when staff are here, that makes it super busy.
We're always looking to be fiscally responsible while increasing efficiencies, right? It's all about ROI. So right now, there's definitely stuff that's overstretching certain people, that's not getting stuff back to us that we need to be more efficient and less of a demand on department personnel. And yeah,
But I think to answer your question, Mr. Nash, is just to have an individual as title of district clerk. So that is a title that we have here, doing some of the pieces that come off Dave's plate, or the annual vote, even though Martha's doing it, that needs to come off someone's plate. If Martha's up at the shop, because in all the legal notices we're typing, as you know, it's their name as a district clerk, so.
so as far as those changes, that's invisible to us, right? Because not really invisible. If a person has higher job satisfaction, they're gonna do a better job for us. And that's, right now, it's transfer a person and replace them, or just replace the vacancy. Like, that's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, right?
Yes and no. The difference is that what they're requesting is you move a confidential from business office to facilities. Move a confidential from payroll to business office, replace the payroll with a principal account clerk instead of a senior account clerk. So yes, there's some shifting of positions. The vacancy we have is a senior account clerk right now. They're asking to have that person bumped up to a principal account clerk and start getting trained in payroll. So we have more than one person that really understands the payroll function.
And would that person also be the deputy treasurer, or that doesn't include that new
No, they'd just
vacancy?
be payroll. The deputy treasurer vacancy is purchasing.
So getting back to the clerk conversation then, so are we looking at doing a 0.4 with stipend, or are we gonna start at 0.6 and offer benefits as a lower?
And, okay, so I'm a little slow with this, but if we hired somebody not as a district clerk, just as a part-time in Dave's office to take care of those things, that,
Well, then they would,
But we
that would
won't-
be their title, that would be the district.
You still have to have the title district clerk.
That's the problem. We
need a
don't have it and we
district
need
clerk.
it.
It could be someone that's currently here and you give them a stipend, like Patty's the deputy clerk by appointed
Mhm,
title.
mhm.
We don't give her a stipend for, it, but essentially what she does for the district in that point of view is some of these items here.
Basically, what happened was, when
And
I don't know,
she'll take a notice of claim or a subpoena if it shows up to the district office because she's the deputy clerk.
mhm.
What we don't have is anybody that is an appointed district clerk.
right, when we adopted the policy 2230, which is our appointed board officials, which is the treasurer and the
Mhm.
clerk.
Mhm.
That policy is almost verbatim out of the law book. And there's a bullet list of, was it 8 or 9 items? And this committee went through them and we were like, well, Patty does this one and Rob does this one and Dave does this one. And our elected person does this one and they're not supposed to. And it was all over the place. We need those 9 things to be in one place. We are not in compliance with state ed law for a district clerk.
Or our own policy.
Right, or our own policy, and I think it was you who got served with something, right? That should not have come to you. It should have gone to a district clerk, like an employee of the,
I think legally though, right now, it's me.
Yes.
So,
yes.
And
They're
Karen does
supposed-
not want the job.
no, I don't.
And nor should Eddie.
Nor
I mean,
should
when
I.
it was John, when it was
shouldn't.
Jonathan, he didn't want the job either. Like,
And before that, it was Tim, I think it was Tim said, he didn't want the job.
right.
It's an important responsibility.
So it's having that person in-house to do those
Right.
items.
Yeah.
And right, it's an accountability and check and balance item. So again,
This is not a luxury position. John.
But I
Or, you know,
I didn't say luxury, but
no, I know what you
I
mean.
understand what, I do think starting at a 0.4 and seeing if we can find someone at 0.4 with a possible stipend for the additional. And if that doesn't work, you can always come up, whereas going from a 0.6
Yeah.
down to a 0.4 is very difficult.
But you're probably gonna want to pare down the duties.
We will
responsibilities.
absolutely will.
but I also feel like, are you paying a differential to someone who would work potentially nights and weekends, right? If we have a board retreat, they might be working a holiday, a Saturday. No, you know, our board meetings are not exactly short, and most of them are, we're all,
That's why we're
the
talking,
four-letter word, we WORK.
we were talking
poor
about
job.
doing a flex.
Yeah,
So that-
flex.
so that-
So I guess what I'm saying, I would need a cost comparison.
Well, that's gonna boil down to what are you asking the person to do from this list? Because in my opinion, the only thing on this list that they absolutely have to do would be the annual budget vote, the annual election, and the legal notices. All the stuff that Patty does on here, you can keep that with the superintendent secretary at no cost. But if you start adding that over the other person, you're gonna wind up with a full-time position real quick.
Okay, but
Is
also
that-
looking at long-term, let's say in the next 5 years, Patty decides she wants to retire. Is it fair to
That's
bring in
gonna
a
be the
newer
next 5
person?
months, maybe. But that's been the way it's been forever. You're gonna.
Okay, but that is the worst answer.
No,
We
it's
said that
not.
in finance too.
It's
The
the
way we've
same-
always done it is
You're-
not the
you're
right
implying
answer.
that she's not doing a good job.
No, I
We're
think she's
gonna-
doing an amazing job. I think she's
Well, then why
overloaded.
can't You can train the next person to do
Yeah,
that.
I
You
I
can
think
make
it's
that
a
argument
lot-
for every position, if that's the
think
way we're
that's-
gonna go.
A lot to ask, especially in our current climate. There are certainly responsibilities that your office has had to take on during COVID that are probably not going away anytime soon, that it feels like some of these things are a giant distraction from, that if this role could do, should do, like the policy work.
Are the duties that Karen's currently performing on there as well? Listed or?
Well, right now, the duties, the only thing that Karen actually does would be receive a notice of claim or a subpoena.
I sign those special
And
ed
you
things.
sign the special ed things as the clerk of the
And
board.
if you have to go in for a van or something, when they put the thing down, I have to come in for
Legal
that.
notices.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and the stuff that, there's more stuff that she's supposed to be doing that someone
Right.
else is doing and she just signs her name to, which is not good.
Right.
That's what makes this position so unsettling, is
Yeah.
because you got so much stuff happening, you're signing your name to that's legal.
So I didn't want to take it again, because this is my second go around as clerk and I didn't want to do it
And
again.
it's not that we don't need a board clerk. We do need a board clerk or board secretary. We do need someone who does what Karen
Well,
does.
that's the next thing,
The-
changing the title from clerk.
Right.
And
We do need that role. So district clerk is one thing, but board clerk or board secretary is another thing, because our calendar, you know,
Right, but that's for another,
And
that's
we-
for another
we
day.
can work up a cost comparison on kind of
0.4 to
the history where
0.6.
we work and what we're kind of looking at. We didn't have any time, Dave didn't have time today to do some of these pieces for us. So we could come up with, I don't think a dead accurate, but a prediction on what the cost comparison would be based on the number of meetings, some of the other, like a policy meetings, the time duration. I think flex time is beneficial over paying straight time, so I definitely like flex with that. And we can narrow down this list, follow up with Dave, so we shave this and kind of have a precise piece between what Dr. Fontana does, the policy and the posting. Put that together and present that. Wouldn't you say, Peter?
And then I
Should
think
be able to.
in doing that analysis, you probably have a better sense of whether it should be a
Absolutely.
0.4 or 0.6.
one of the policy items is specifically attends all meetings of the
Yeah.
board. So really, they would be at everything other than a board retreat. Or an executive session.
So. we can work that
So-
on the calendar from last year. And where
Yeah.
it would be, and we'll pretend it's a real year where everything's in person.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everybody has a good sense. Now,
Yes.
any questions?
Do
Peter?
you?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
I mean,
You can
to
keep
be
that one,
honest
I
with you, if you think about committee meetings, if they're gonna continue to be this model, the person could zoom in. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's-
Tanya had
yeah.
to zoom in earlier today, you know,
Yeah,
Paul's zooming in now.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah,
this is a.
That's not going
benefit-
away, right?
This is a benefit to
Yeah.
the model that is being explored.
I think regular board meetings would have to be,
In person.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
No doubt.
but committee meetings, without a doubt.
Okay, so with that, I think we've exhausted the agenda unless we have.
I'm just gonna catch
executive
Elena
committee.
up on, so the only other item we talked about was this one.
Executive, do we have to
Our
go to-
policy.
We don't have
Right, so
exact, but
we were
we
supposed to
have
already
on the
have all the,
24th, we wanted, oh, sorry, the
public budget
25th,
approved.
we wanted to have a
But-
meeting.
They just came forward asking about.
At 4:30?
Full support of adding.
And we wanted to bring
I think
in,
you'd be opposed to
yeah,
that
we
having
wanted to
a-
bring in the folks that we're looking at for the exit survey.
I'm happy.
They offered to do a presentation to the,
Illinois.
to the.
About 15 minutes, we wanted to bring in the folks that
I'd say a
were,
half an hour.
there's a company that does exit surveys as well as climate surveys.
Yes,
That came about. Unfortunately, when we talk about looking at all the different people that propose these services, there's not too many out there that do it at this level. We just found out today they work with Rockport schools as well. So in a conversation, they wanted to come in, just talk to the people operations about what they do. And we're hoping we can do that at the next meeting, be about a half hour of our time.
That's fine.
I think that's
They'll
worthwhile.
show you what they do and how they do it. And
So 25th at 4:30.
Yeah.
Okay,
That's our next schedule.
so that's all we have this evening. Good to see you, Mr. Haggerty.
No exec.
No exec session.
Okay.
Don't jinx it.
Wait, Paul, are you signing back on for, do we have a link to sign him back on for?
No, there's no exec session.
There's no exec.
Yes, there is. We're supposed to be committee of the whole for Peter's evaluation tonight, 5:30.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
There must be another link for that. I don't have.
Yeah, we don't have a link for that.
I'm gonna-
I didn't know Paul wasn't gonna,
Yeah, I might have.
who are we down,
might
Lisa
have
and,
to,
Lisa, Craig and Paul.
Oh, there.
There's,
6.
Paul's there 7, so just, yeah. So you want me to
is
text?
Paul the only one on this?
Yeah.
You're going to see at the next board meeting. Sandra
Panero.
Panero is going to be terminated. She's been a substitute aide, a substitute teaching assistant in the district. She's up for termination, out of her actions over at Stroud. She may reach out to
So you're doing
someone.
this on the recording or no?
No,
No, you turned it up, didn't
It says it's
It
recording.
says recording.
you?
I'm going to lock off Mr. Haggerty, and then we'll bring it back on.
There's nobody else. Is there?
No.